I feel like you guys, you know, I want to be paid in Pringles.
Yeah. Ryan, I'm sorry. You're getting paid in Pringles. What's that?
Lawson Pop. That's such a great slogan.
What's up, everybody? Pony Lawson here, and we are back with another podcast. I'm here joined today with my friend Joey P.
What's that?
We're going to kind of get into a few different topics and just see what comes up. I stepped in poop last night.
Poop? That's supposedly good luck, right?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence to support that either.
It somehow ended up on the tops of my shoes.
On the tops of your shoes?
Couldn't tell you.
Would you like baseball slide into poop?
I don't know. I hope it was dog poop.
You know, in New York City, you just kind of.
Don't worry, I washed the shit out of them. They're waterproof. I washed the shit out of them. No pun intended. And so we were outside of this bar, the hotel bar, and smoking, going back and forth. And next thing you know, I'm like, dude, what is on my fingers? Like, what the fuck is this? Shit, like, did I get food on my fingers? I reach across the bar, grab those napkins, I take it off. I look down, I see it's like some on the top of my pant leg. I'm like, what the? I'm no fucking way.
No way.
So I'm at the bar, and I'm trying. It looked like a pile of dirt at first, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, that can't be shit. Ryan, I'll be right back.
Oh my God.
I go right in the hotel room to, like, there's bathrooms right inside the entrance of the hotel room. So I didn't have to go to my hotel or whatever, but I'm like, what's the code again? They let me in there. I'm making a mess in the bathroom. There's no paper towels. I can't wipe this clean, so I'm using toilet paper. My shoes are in the sink. I'm just making a mess out of toilet paper. There's shit everywhere.
Oh, man, the distress
Water
that happens of finding shit in places you don't want to find it, you know?
Oh, my God. And it was up against this wall, too, where shit shouldn't be.
Right.
Shouldn't be there to begin with.
Oh, my God.
So I'm walking out of the place, squeak, 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 squeak. I'm like, shit.
Oh, man, and I feel like that happens to me all the time. Being on a motorcycle, I will just walk and step on shit, and I won't notice until I get on my bike, and there is shit smeared all over the peg. And now I gotta scrub this fucking peg. I gotta scrub the shoe. It's a fucking headache.
It's a nightmare. People just need to learn to pick up after their dogs.
Just clean up after your dogs.
It's not that hard. Or
pick
poop
up their crap, man.
somewhere else. If it's your poop, don't poop on the sidewalk. I guess you guys don't really have alleys here. Figure something out.
And then I have this issue with where I park my motorcycle. I have this like giant cone, and every day it is completely wet with dog pee. And there's been twice where I'm, taking the cover off my motorcycle and, setting myself up to get on my motorcycle. And so here comes a guy with his dog and pees right on the cone right next to my bike. And I'm like, excuse me, my bike smells like pee just because of you and your dog.
Yep.
Please, I don't want to smell pee while I'm riding.
Absolutely not.
But
absolutely not.
Yeah, people just do whatever the fuck they want,
Yeah, it's gross.
Shitty people exist out there.
Mm-hmm.
Shitty people exist.
It's a fact. So I guess one of the first things I kind of wanted to talk about, or just is tattooing on darker skin, right? To me, it kind of seems like this topic that not a lot of people talk about or really get into, right? Like everybody, again, to me, it just seems like they bounce around the subject of what's the difference between tattooing pale skin compared to dark skin. You know what I mean? Like. And that just doesn't necessarily have to be melanated skin. That could be skin that has seen a lot of sunlight. You know what I'm saying?
It's been
weathered
weathered
in the southern states. It's been weathered a bit, right? So there's definitely a difference in that. And I think almost every tattooer can agree if you have experience in that, right? Sometimes the dark skin like absorbs the moisture a little bit more or something like that. I guess what are some of the bigger differences that you notice?
So I think that one of the most common differences is people with darker skin usually deal with keloid more than your lighter skin, and so they're afraid of even diving into the aspect of the tattoo world.
For sure.
But I feel like this subject doesn't really come up too much, probably because the tattoo industry probably leaves it for the urban aspect of tattooing, and so it's not discussed. They just, sometimes they'll try not to take too many darker skinned clients, and those clients that are rejected, we usually, go to a more urban setting tattoo shop.
Sure.
Where that's a very common thing. But again, being discouraged as a client is horrible just because of your skin, or even the ideas that you have of going into getting a tattoo with like, the keloid, or whatever aspect, or skin condition that they have. And that pertains to people with lighter skin who have conditions as well. Sometimes
absolutely.
they'll disclose that to a tattoo artist and they won't even take that risk. You know?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a bunch of little things, I guess, too.
A little thing. So, like even white, for example. Like I've noticed, like I used to use a lot more white on darker skin, but as sometimes it comes back and it heals white and great. Sometimes it comes back a little brown, a little yellow, right? And I know that's partially keloiding, but also at the same time, when tattoos heal, the skin's growing over that skin, right? So whatever your skin tone is, you're seeing a shade of that over the tattoo color, right? So if you're tattooing white ink, the white ink doesn't stay on top of the skin forever. It goes subdermis, right?
Yep,
under the skin.
right.
So you're seeing, a little bit of that tone. Which you see a lot of inexperienced tattooers doing that, adding white when they really shouldn't.
Right. I feel like sometimes it can be situations where they'll definitely put too much white into a tattoo, but I feel like as an experienced tattooer, you should definitely, a lot of the things that make sense should be into play when it comes to the physics of tattooing in general. I mean, but mainly pertaining into the white, applying white. And for me, my rule of thumb is whenever I'm dealing with, putting white into darker skin, or even, sensitive skin, my rule of thumb is the least amount of trauma I can do to the skin, the better this tattoo is going to heal, and it'll hold that white.
Sure, right.
So, most of the time I won't like a work in white. I'll try and get it in one pass. And even if it doesn't show, sometimes I'll just leave it and not even try and brighten up that white.
Right, because you're going to do more damage in the long run, right?
Exactly. And, that's, more damage, the more likely for that to fall out.
Come out, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it just depends on the situation at hand, I guess.
Sure. So I've also heard that there are some tattooers that almost turn down a lot of dark skin clients as well, because their work might not, or this could be lack of experience, but they're just like, maybe their work doesn't work well with the dark skin or something. You know what I'm saying? Like they require a lot of contrast.
Right.
So I guess, and that's kind of a bummer, because I feel like any tattoo artist should be accessible to anybody, right? And I think that, it should be accessible to anybody.
Right.
And at that point, it's only hurting the tattoo artist's feelings, because they're not getting what they want out of it, right? Although the person getting tattooed is getting what they want out of it. And,
right.
And to me, like, my job is to make everybody as happy as I possibly can.
Exactly.
So it's like, I'm going
the
to
sense
take on
of,
whatever that is.
being in the service industry. A
Right,
lot
for
of tattoo artists don't really realize that we are at service. There's a lot of tattoo artists out there that they are fucking phenomenal tattooers, and they'll go into doing their tattoo, and most of the time they'll be, solitary in the whole experience, and they won't really communicate with or engage with their client.
Sure.
And I feel like the experience of getting a tattoo is part of the job.
Absolutely. On that note, how do you feel about people wearing headphones while they do tattoos?
When it comes to tattoo artists wearing headphones, of course, like I said, they're a phenomenal artist, and they want to get into the zone, and they want to, do their job as to doing a good tattoo. And like I said, most tattoo artists, they think that their job pertains to doing a good tattoo, and that's it. When it comes to me, I definitely feed off of my client. My first 30 minutes, an hour is basically taking as much energy off of my client and figuring out whether that person is more social or is a little bit more quiet and they like to focus. If they want to have their headphones, or if they decide they want to have small talk. And with that information, then usually sometimes I'll have one earplug on. But me being who I am, I'm a very social butterfly guy. I would definitely want to, like, every once in a while check up on them, or talk a little bit, just so that way it's definitely more of an experience.
Sure.
Even if you just talk a little bit, at least it's that much more of an experience than just getting tattooed and being on your iPad and watching Netflix.
Because I agree, it is more than that, right? Like, I don't know, you're getting a good tattoo out of it, but I'd rather, I mean, I'm full of bad tattoos, as you can see from some of my videos. So I'm more about, what's behind it, the story, like what can we squeeze out of this? A lot of clients, I've had a lot of clients, they'll bring headphones with them to their appointments, and maybe they'll put them in, but then they realize, or before they even get to put them in, they're having so much fun at the appointment already before we've tattooed or whatever, so they kind of just set them aside. They're like, I guess I don't need these, even if we're not listening to music, even if we're not watching TV, they're just having a good time. And at that point, they're like, I guess I don't need to get into my headphones,
Right.
And that's the only time I guess I would ever wear them too, is if they wore headphones first and then they weren't talking, and then I was like, all right, sure. But other than that, I don't know, I want to be aware of everything around me.
Right. That's also another thing too. You definitely don't want to be, tunnel vision into your tattoo, and your manager or your assistant or whatever have you come by and they need to grab your attention, but they're afraid of scaring you in the middle of you zapping someone.
Right.
You definitely want to be,
Anything
at least
happen,
a little bit open to your surroundings, which is usually why I would never usually ever put both my AirPods on. I would usually have one on.
Sure, because I can agree. I mean, because they do get in the zone, and especially if I'm painting, I'm going to be listening to music. I listen to music every day for every occasion, so I get it. But I just feel like there's, I don't know, it deserves a little bit more of a connection there, a little bit more of a bond.
Absolutely,
right? Like there's something
I
extra
totally
there,
agree.
right?
Back to the fact that it's a service. We wouldn't be doing tattoos if it wasn't for people, and so we need to service them. It needs to be, it needs to be an experience, and
Sure.
with that idea, I feel like tattoo artists would definitely get much more returning clients if they're having a great time.
Right, otherwise they got their piece from that person, they collected, and then they moved on, now they're going to go collect from something else.
Right, that's exactly the case.
Like, I can't wait to go back, and you love reading that too. Like if somebody left a comment, review, or whatever, they're like, I had such a good experience.
Right.
I love reading that word, not a good time, but I had such a good experience while I was here at that shop, even if we didn't do much, we might not listen to music or watch TV, but we just had a good time together, you know what I mean? We could relate in a lot of ways or whatever. I also think a lot of tattoo artists are chameleons. We can kind of blend in and we can relate a lot with people. They might be a completely different style or have just be a completely different person than we are, but we are so good at just kind of like blending in and adapting with it. And I don't know, I think that's pretty cool that we can do that too. I guess that's what makes us unique, or sets us apart from the normies.
Right. And then, being around so many different kinds of people and different, vibes, we definitely get that sense of being chameleons and definitely adapting.
Isn't that cool? It's for us, it's a different experience every day too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It can be like this older woman one day, it can be this younger hip dude another day, and it's just like,
and I think that's the most fresh thing about it, is that we're meeting so many different people, and we're kind of like, so it's basically the same concept of us doing a tattoo. It's almost a different experience every single time, with the person and their character, personality, and their level of sociability, as well as our design and style or size or whatever have you.
You get to learn about them too. Like I don't know, with me, I tattoo a lot of portraits, so I get to learn a lot about the people that I tattoo. Right? Like I tattooed a picture of Stevie Wonder, so I'm learning everything about Stevie Wonder from this person. Where I wouldn't go home and and Wikipedia all this stuff. It's just it's forced upon me, and I love that so much, because it's new information every day.
And it's much more cooler to learn about something through a social experience than to be reading it. Reading stuff, most of the time will take a wow factor at the moment that we're reading it, but once we engage it into an experience, it's locked in much better than reading it.
For sure, right. It's a little more all-encompassing.
And the whole aspect of it being such a intimate experience, it's just you and one other person, you kind of take a lot in.
You do, absolutely.
Yeah, even though, we definitely tattoo a lot of people, through our career, and we're seeing different faces every day, but you definitely remember certain experiences that, where you learn a couple of things, or
for sure.
Something's a little different, Do
you have any wild, like an experience that pops in the top of your head? Maybe not necessarily like a crazy client story, but is there something that recently that maybe happened at a shop you worked at or something like that?
No, I mean, so the most recent thing was yesterday. I was tattooing one of my clients, and he lives out in Baltimore, so he took a flight in the morning and then got a driver to fly him to drive him back home. But the cool thing about it is that he came in, and we were maybe about an hour into tattooing, and then he mentions another one of my colleagues here Gabby. She's an awesome artist, by the way. And his wife got tattooed by her, and he was like, "Hey, is this person Gabby?" I was like, "Oh no, Gabby's right here, right next to him." And I got to introduce them, and it makes it a whole connection because even Gabby remembered his wife, yeah, right. So now it's like a whole connection thing. And so that kind of sits in the back of your mind,
But she probably didn't remember him until he said what kind of tattoo she got. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Which is usually the case.
About it. It's so funny. Because you can see a face and be like, I don't know if I've met you before in my life or not. And they're like, yeah, you've tattooed me 7 times. And then as soon as they show you
that's
tattoo,
the worst thing.
Damn it, got it.
You have an appointment with a client and you're like, oh, so what was the last tattoo you got done? And they're like, well, you did it like 2 months ago. Yeah. And we're like, oh, yes, right.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you had one after that. Yeah, that shit's funny when you don't really remember somebody until you see their tattoo.
Yeah.
And then all that comes back. Everything that you remember, the movies you watched, you're like, oh yeah, we watched Home Alone that day, blah, 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 whatever.
It's so crazy. When
Snaps
we come
right
across that, that experience of remembering a client, you instantly go back to the moment and think about like all the things you remember in that moment and
everything. So I guess in a way, like a lot of people get tattoos and they say that they are timestamps, right? Like they remember everything that happened when they got those tattoos. So in a very similar sense, we remember everything that we were doing when we gave that person a tattoo, right? So
wow, I never even thought about that as a connection.
Wild,
that's so cool.
Wild. So maybe we can escape Alzheimer's by just like saving like a book of our clients' faces and tattoos and be like, oh yeah, and just have all these rememberies.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool concept as well, taking photos with of the tattoo as well as like the person's face, so you kind of have like a connection, like, oh, this person with this tattoo, oh, I remember that experience,
right, for sure.
Because
it sparks
shit,
every time.
We was laughing all that, we were talking about this and that and all.
Yep. And then he told me he killed a puppy.
You told me they had a threesome on the roof and all.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, because we're also similar to therapists, right? Like where people just unload everything upon us,
absolutely.
Everything that's going on in their life. And I guess some tattoo artists do that too. I'll be listening into some conversation they're having, and this tattooer is just going on and on and on and on and on, sometimes complaining, but it's interesting,
Yeah.
It's because we're forced next to each other for 6, 7, 8, 14 hours.
Absolutely. But I feel like, it also, as a tattoo artist, it definitely trains you to be a better listener, because, you want to make it an experience, but also you want your client to feel comfortable and be able to say whatever the hell they want, which is usually the case.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But if you can, put in questions and the open-ended questions where they can talk about themselves and, talk about their experiences,
For sure.
and it just makes it a whole comfortable feeling of like just kicking it and just talking shit,
Unless they say some weird shit.
But I'm down for that weird shit.
Right.
I definitely, try my best to fucking relate to that weird shit.
For sure, in a good way. I had this one lady asked me one time. I went to go get some food because I like to buy my clients food, every lunch. It's just part of it, right? Like we're here together for a long time. You got to get fed. I would feel like an asshole if you paid for it and let me take care of it.
Right.
So
I
tell my client, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get some Mediterranean food. Would you like any? She goes, oh no, honey, that's cute. We eat American. I was like, okay.
Oh man! Wow.
So her husband went and got her cheeseburger and French fries.
Oh, we eat American.
We eat American.
Way to stay patriotic.
Yo, right? French fries.
Oh man!
And a cheeseburger.
I usually, if I have a full day, I usually recommend my client to have a good meal, good hefty like breakfast / brunch. But if I ask my client, have you got to eat? And they usually say, I had a bagel or whatever, and I'll usually offer, and I usually get myself a smoothie as well as them.
Yeah.
And smoothie, who doesn't like smoothies? Smoothies is always a good time.
Yeah, you're gonna love a guest spotting at the shop. Garrett loves buying smoothies. He's obsessed with it. You guys are gonna get along swimmingly. Yeah.
I'm all about it.
He does it every day.
Any kind of food or snack that is associated with happiness, like ice cream, and cookies and shit. Like, fucking for everybody.
Same,
fuck that,
I'm a big fan of chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake.
I know chocolate brings happiness to people.
Happiness to me, that's for sure.
I'm not too much of a chocolate person, but I know chocolate does.
Also, Garrett doesn't like chocolate.
Who?
Garrett, the guy I said that is obsessed with smoothies. I was like, you guys are gonna want swimming if you come guest spot at the shop. He loves smoothies, buys them every day. So he'll buy you smoothies every day, I'm sure. And you guys can not eat chocolate cake together. So.
No, it's I like chocolate. Like you got to be a weirdo to not like chocolate, but I don't like too much chocolate. Like if you have like a double fudge chocolate chip cake, like that's just too much chocolate for me.
I don't know.
That's a lot of chocolate. You know, it's too. Chocolate chip
So
cookie
little.
is the perfect amount of chocolate.
If they're stuffed with chocolate chips.
Chocolate chunks.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Melty chocolate chunks. Let's go, baby. So I do want to know, like, how you got started, how long you've been tattooing, like, you know, the average questions.
Holy
kind of bounced
shit.
around that for a minute. But yeah,
All
so
right, here we go.
how'd you get your start?
So I've been tattooing 9 years in April, and before tattooing, I was actually a teacher. I taught math.
No way.
Yeah, and
What grade?
middle school.
No
Middle
way.
School time. Yeah, and one of my colleagues at that time, she had went to go get a tattoo down in West Fourth, which is a very popular place to go and get tattooed in New York, especially at that time. And at that time, I didn't have any tattoos. I didn't know anything about tattoos.
You're just a nerdy math teacher.
Yeah. Well, you know, jockey, cool, math.
You're just a
teacher,
jockey, cool,
dude.
nerdy math teacher.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like I
Math
like,
makes it
you know,
nerdy, right?
growing up in middle school and high school, like, you know, I was on the baseball team, the basketball team, and all that shit. But I also was on the band. I was on the chess team. I was on the debate team. Like I was
What'd you play
a
in band?
jockey. No, I played the snare drum.
Oh, same.
Oh, did you?
Absolutely.
No fucking way. Oh,
Absolutely.
we gotta rip
Yo,
some drums.
You know what's crazy though? So everybody, like I grew up in a dirt poor town of 3,000. Everybody else bought their drum set brand new. They had the whole kit and the snare drum. And I'm like, motherfucker. And my mom and me ended up going to a yard sale. We found a snare drum for like $12. I was like,
No way. With a
Why?
harness and everything?
I didn't have a harness. I had
You
a
had a
stand,
strap.
I had a snare stand,
Oh,
but
you
I
had a
ended up like
stand.
borrowing a strap at school. But yeah, I mean, you know, instead of paying the hundreds of dollars that they charge for those
Oh
things.
my God. Actually, not to brag, but when I was in middle school, when I was in 8th grade, which is the last year in the middle school, we had been 9 years running champions in this competition or whatever. So we had high budgets for drums. So we had pearls, and they were like $1,500 drums, let alone like $300 harnesses. Like it was, we had like we had the works.
Yeah.
It was wild. And sometimes, you know, you have your drum and you're on the line, and, you know, people who are, you know, the other students coming up, you know, they use your drums every once in a while, and you get a little touchy or whatever. You're like,
Nobody wanted to use my drums.
Yeah, don't use
They
fucking
didn't.
drum.
What
you
is
know?
this garbage?
But it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes, you know, when you bang into someone else and you're like, holy shit, this is expensive. I can't be doing that. You know, I don't want.
So
can't
were
be
you on
running
drumline
into
as well?
other people.
Were you on drumline as well?
Yeah, I was on the drum line
good
as well.
shit.
I was
Same.
actually the co-captain of the snare line. Yeah.
Damn. That's
Yeah,
dope.
so in the snare line we had a co-captain, a captain, and then we had the percussion captain who knew
Bass, drums,
everything,
whatnot.
all
Yeah.
the drums. But every section had a captain and a co-captain.
Very cool. I think ours was probably too small to have captains and stuff, you know, but it was maybe 5 snare drums, 3 different bass drums, maybe 4.
Okay, yeah, we had 5 of everything except for triplets. We had 4 triplets.
That stuff was always so much fun. I mean, I fucked around with it a lot. I never got to like play in the line, but that stuff, I was like, damn, those are the guys. You know what I
Those
mean?
guys know what the fuck they're doing.
I
Just
love when they would like pass by the school. I was like, damn, these guys are talented.
Oh yeah, it's one thing to know how to play the snare drum, but being able to transition that talent into match grips and moving around, that's a thing.
Oh, I played a xylophone too. I played the xylophone, and we went to, when I was in, I think, 8th grade, we were in this group called the Tribe. It was a marimba group, it was a marimba ensemble, so it was just marimbas, and we got invited to Indianapolis to this arts garden. It was like this large dome above the city, like above this intersection.
shit.
It was so fucking cool, and I was really young, but that was like one of the coolest things for me at the time. I was like, damn, we got invited to do this place, and it was awesome.
That's
like I said
that's
before.
cool when those little things brings you into an experience.
Oh yeah.
Before we get back to the continuation of how I got into tattooing, when I was in 8th grade, actually, we were 9 years running champions in the band competition, and at that same time, I was on the chess team, and our chess team was actually really good.
Yeah.
So we had qualifies for nationals, and funny enough, my national chess tournament and the all state competition was the same weekend. So I had to choose.
Oh no.
And I was co-captain of the snare line. So I'm kind of supposed to have to go.
Right.
But I ended up going to
The chess.
the chess.
No way.
Yeah, in Kansas City, Missouri. It was a
Did you do well?
super dope experience. Yeah, I was actually 56
Out of
2000.
wow, crazy.
At that
Crazy.
at that place they give you a medal.
Yeah.
But 50, I think, and on, they give you a trophy. But that happened to be the first year that we lost in that competition.
Your fault.
It was not my fault. I found out the whole band got to the competition late.
Oh,
so
no.
they weren't able to play.
You're kidding me.
Yep.
Good choice.
So the God
Good choice.
blessed me with a good decision.
I guess, right? Man, my cousin used to be this champion chess player. He's a wild human being. But when he was really young, he would always come over and he would bring his chessboard and his little clock and stuff like that. So we'd be like, I never was as good as him. I was good. I love chess still to this day, but he was just, smack. I'm like, man, he's quick and
Chess
good.
is such a movement. It's a whole like lifestyle. The whole idea of like learning chess and playing it every day and getting better and playing good players and playing phenomenal players and playing, players on your level.
How far can you get inside their head?
It is so wild, like just the different levels of competition, the camaraderie, everything that's happening with chess it's a crazy lifestyle to get into chess like full dive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Putting things in your butt.
What's that?
You're putting things in your butt.
As a kid, you put things in your butt every once in a while. No, but no, it's fun, especially at that age. Getting into chess in elementary and middle school is definitely a fun, super fun thing. I feel like it's relatable in the competition aspect of like spelling bees.
I was just gonna say, were you ever part of spelling bee?
No, I was actually a
those.
horrible
Were
speller.
you?
Horrible.
I lost on 2 words.
I was great in
remember.
math, but
That's funny.
writing and reading and all that stuff, I was very regular.
So it was, the butt thing. Did you hear about that guy, the chess player?
No.
No, we just thought you were talking about butt stuff.
No,
Yeah, we were.
he was literally sticking a vibrator in his butt that had like its individual pulses, and someone from the outside was like telling him what to do, and they were basing like the moves on the like,
Wow.
On the pulse
the
setting.
SOS, shit.
That is wild.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he got like up to like Magnus.
Wow.
I am definitely going to read into
We should
this.
try that.
We should definitely try
that.
that.
Butt stuff.
But that is wild. So
Right?
the extreme, the people, the lengths that people go through to be the best, or be good, or it's fucking crazy.
It is
Holy
wild.
shit balls.
Right. Yeah, so I was good at spelling bees. I loved those things, but I would always fuck up easy words. Like I was overconfident, and she told me the word was peace, and I was like, oh, got that, P-I-E-C-E. I was like, no, it's P-E-A-C-E. I said the wrong piece. I was like, motherfucker.
Wrong
and then
piece.
the other one that failed me was science. I mean, because I always made it to the finals, a few times, but I'd lost on silly words. And in science, I think I did the I before E, except after C, kind of.
Yeah.
Fuck that one up. But man, oh man, that was a bummer.
But yeah, to get back to how I got started, my colleague had introduced me to go, to get her tattoo. So I went with her to West Forest to, one of those shops there to get to watch her get tattooed and be there for moral support
Yeah.
or whatever.
And you got no tattoos at the time.
I have no tattoos. I have no idea, about the whole atmosphere or how things work or anything. So I go and she's getting her tattoo. She's getting this tiny thing. I think maybe like a moon with a dolphin, something on her wrist or whatever. And the whole time he was doing the tattoo, I was thinking, damn, this looks easy. I could do this shit. I could totally do this shit. I paint, I draw, I'm in the arts. I could do this shit. This shit looks easy. So I go home. I told my girlfriend about it. I was like, oh yeah, shit looks easy. It's just tattoos. I don't know. And then a couple weeks later, 3 weeks later or whatever, she surprised me with a starter tattoo kit thing.
No way.
Yeah, and I was so intrigued. I was like, oh shit, this is actually a cool surprise. I had no idea that she was getting that for me or
Was
whatever.
it a coil or a rotary?
It was definitely, the coils with the dragons on there, the little
Super
starter
glitter.
box,
Yeah,
John.
yeah.
And yeah, I started practicing on fruits and grapefruits and bananas and all this stuff, and I had been practicing for months.
Now, who told you to start to practice on those?
What's that?
Who told you to practice on the
YouTube.
Oh, gotcha. Yep,
YouTube
yep.
told me to practice on the and YouTube also taught me about how to set up and all this stuff, the beginning stuff or whatever. And got my tattoo license and started, I was still practicing. And months after, one of my friends, Charles, he lives in Australia now. He was a very good friend. He would always come over, and we would always hang out, drink beers, talk shit, and watch games or whatever. And he would always see me practicing on fruits and stuff. And one day he's like, "Why don't you do a tattoo for me? Let's do a tattoo today." And instantly started sweating.
Yeah,
like,
no
what the?
doubt.
I don't, shut up, sit down. Let's just keep watching the game or something, And he was like, "No, we're gonna do it. Today's the day. Today's we're gonna do it." And yep, we did a wing on his rib.
Oh, the best spot to start.
The best mistake to go with.
And that alone didn't deter you right off the bat? You weren't like, oh shit, this isn't for me.
No, it was actually a really difficult time.
Yeah.
That first tattoo was difficult. More than that,
Immediately
I have
humbling.
no fucking immediate humble. But more than that, I had no one to turn to. Usually in the learning aspect of tattooing, you're an apprentice, you have a mentor, something happens and it's not going your way, you have someone to turn to.
Yeah.
But, I've always been the figure stuff out on the fly kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not going your way, you got to make it happen. Something's
Adapt to make a change.
and we got through it. But it was it was the toughest tattoo experience I've probably had.
Are you still friends with that guy?
Yeah.
Did he cover it? He still has it.
He still has it.
Good deal.
I know a couple months later, I tried to fix it up a little bit. But seeing it today, it's like part of history for me.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, this is history. I'm going to keep it like this."
So then at what point did you make it into a shop?
Oh, so I had been tattooing. So after that, doing friends and here and there and still learning the ropes. And then I started to get comfortable doing lines. And so I tattooed myself. I tattooed my thigh and both of my thighs, I did this bigger piece and then this tiny small lettering thing. And then after that, started getting, a little bit more better. And then funny enough, Keith Hernandez. He's known as Dez. He works for Bang Bang now.
Yep. Great artist.
Me and him had started tattooing at the same time. Me and him went to the same high school, and we grew up in the same neighborhood playing basketball and handball together. So it was ironic that someone I knew was learning how to tattoo.
Sure.
At that time I was all by myself learning tattooing. And I didn't have any tattoo artist friends at that time. And so he was the only other person that I knew. So we were learning during the same time. And so he was doing tattoos here and there while I was doing tattoos here and there. And there was a new tattoo shop being opened up by Yankee Stadium on 161st Street in the Bronx. The shop was called Bomb City Tattoo. I got a tattoo for that on my thigh, on my calf of skull that says Bomb City Tattoo because it's the first shop I ever worked for.
Yeah.
So I had
So you
to do
had
it.
tattoos that you did yourself at this point on yourself, but you had no professional tattoos on you.
No, at
that
this
point.
time I didn't have any professional tattoos. He got introduced to the owner of Bomb City Tattoo somehow. And then the owner asked him if he knew any artists that were looking. And he mentioned me, and they reached out to me, and they offered me a job. At that time, I was not completely confident in my work, but I was enthused to be in the shop and learn. It was a good experience all the way around. That shop only lasted about a year and a half.
Oh wow.
But it was a good experience, good learning experience. And I got to tattoo next to tattoo artists who had been tattooing for a couple of years.
That was a great feeling, right? When the first weeks you're in a tattoo shop, you're like, man, I cannot believe this.
Yeah, I cannot believe I'm doing this. That's exactly it. It was just like, I was just tattooing like for fun, tattooing here and there for money, not really like doing it for the money idea of it. Mainly just doing it because it's something that looks fun to do.
Yeah. And somebody's letting you do it.
Yeah, and someone's letting me do it on them. So it's like, what? But oh man, yeah, it was a good experience. I learned a bunch, and I went through the whole shop experience of drama and things, and it was a perfect. I look back at that time, and it was.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good.
And I met one of my very good friends, Carlos Sanchez, tattooed by Lawson, and me and him are still very good friends today. Like, I was at his house today.
Gotcha. So he worked at Bomb City?
He worked at Bomb City Tattoo.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
2013.
No doubt. See, I know you've learned a lot, obviously, in that 9 years, tips and tricks here and there.
Yeah.
Is there something like if there was a tattooer watching that absolutely loved your work and he just wanted to do more work like Joey, and there's just something that you could maybe tell them, and not like inspirational, but something that would be a tip or trick, for instance, sometimes when I put water on top of tattoos or ointment, it kind of magnifies it and you can see where you've missed. Or, I talked to Adam Dean and he said that he'll use a polarizer and then look at the tattoo via the polarizer, let it sit for a minute, and then since the polarizer exposes all the spots you missed, then he can go back into it. So is there anything, I guess, that it's just something you picked up, you're like, no way, I didn't know you could do that, or... So
in that aspect, at the end of my tattoo, when I am done, after you put your whites on, I usually clean it with green soap, and then I'll wipe it a couple of times with witch hazel, which in my opinion brings down the redness a lot. And when I go through that process, usually I'll walk away for 10 minutes and try and refresh your eyes and try not to look at the tattoo and come back to it and then start to pick it apart, small square by small square.
Yeah.
And then after I do that, I'll look at it as a whole and decide that I'm finished. But one of the tips that I've learned, actually in the recent years, is the dilution of your black and making your gray wash. So for a very long time in my career, I depended on a gray wash set, and I was using solely that.
Yeah.
This brand was Silverback, and they were making the original set, which was actually the very first gray wash set, and it was at the time the most sold gray wash set. So it's a very popular set.
Absolutely.
It was a 1 through 4, and they started to transition through the 1 through 10. They transitioned through the 1 through 10, and they discontinued their 1 through 4, which was something I was in love with.
Sure. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah. And they discontinued their 1 through 4 because they had the 1 through 10. They brought in their gray wash set. And when that happened, I tried transitioning to the 10 set.
That's a lot. That's a high number.
Yeah, the even numbers, that didn't really work. I went to the odd numbers, that didn't really work. And so I was forced to learn how to make my own gray wash set with a drop system.
Yep.
For the first time after tattooing for over 5 years.
Oh wow, that's pretty wild. And you much prefer that, and you're still using that today?
I'm using the drop system just because of the fact of its dependability.
Yeah.
As a growing industry, we definitely want to try new things, try new products, because you never know what you like until you try it.
I'm huge on that. It's been 22 years and I cannot stop. Whether it be a new machine, new type of needles come out, I'm like, fuck,
You
man.
never know,
And then
like-
you got to run through the whole process again. You got a new machine and then you're trying these needles, but you're like, shit, I didn't try this machine with those needles. And it's just constant experimentation.
And even with that mindset, you're a master at this point of trying new stuff and learning to adapt to that new thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that is super vital to our industry because things are constantly changing.
Sure.
But when you have a sensibility of learning how to do something a bunch of different ways, then you're not vulnerable to depending on one way and then that one way being taken away from you.
That's a good point, because I do know some artists that once they know a machine, they're like, oh, why would I experiment? I want to hone all my hours into this thing. But I agree with you wholeheartuly there. You know, it's like when that thing's
let's
taken
say
away, what do you do?
you were attached to a certain brand of machine. That machine manufacturer or maker doesn't make machines anymore,
Discontinued or
and
whatever.
your machine wears out. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're not familiar with other machines now. It's like you're starting over again.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. So get
So-
used to that when you can.
A good thing is learn to adapt as well as try things and just don't depend on one way of doing something.
Yeah.
Not only in the tattoo industry, but in the whole art industry or your whole, like anything you do in your life, you shouldn't depend on one way about doing something. I learned so hard that my way of doing things is not the right way.
Right.
It is my way.
Your way. It's Joey P's
And
way.
just because I've thought about it in the most practical way doesn't mean that it's the right way.
I think
There's
that's
no
I
such
think that's
thing
pretty
as
big
the
in
right
tattooing.
way to
Well.
do something.
Right. Especially when it comes to tattooing, you get a lot of the older mindset where they're like, this is the right way, these are the rules, these are the guidelines you have to stick by. But, you know, and I am talking specifically about a lot of old school traditional tattooers, right? And everybody knows I have this massive appreciation for traditional tattoos. I think they're some of the hardest tattoos to do. But that mindset, I think you have to get yourself out of that mindset because rules are meant to be broken. And as I had this conversation yesterday, a lot of times bold not only holds, but bold will blur, bold will blow out. Like that's, you know what I mean? So it's like whatever works for Joey P works for Joey P.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not, one thing doesn't work for everybody, you know?
Right.
That's good to know.
Absolutely. One of my ideals of tattooing is that tattooing in its core is about figuring it out. It's about adapting and figuring out what you should be doing or what comes natural.
Yeah.
It's constantly problem solving.
Yeah, right.
Constant problem solving.
And how well can you adapt to solve that problem?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Also, back to what you were saying about the old school way of tattooing, and this is the way you should learn, and this is the way to do things. I explain that to apprentices all the time. That it's good to take as much as you can from your mentor, but the whole benefit of being an apprentice in a shop is that you can take information from all of these artists. And with that information, figure out the way you want to do.
Right, which is why I don't know how people work by themselves. That would drive me crazy.
Mind blowing.
Just stunting yourself, you know.
The idea, people has always brought up the idea, oh, why don't you open a tattoo shop? Why don't you open up your own private studio? And me being as social as I am, that's like shooting myself in the foot.
Right, exactly. Why
Every
would
day.
I want that? Yep,
I would fucking go mad. I would go crazy.
I'd call my friends over to come hang out.
Yeah,
And now we're
easily.
Come on.
Like there's no one to talk to. There's no one to bounce artistic energy off of. And that's exactly why I love it here.
Especially at this place, right?
NYC. We
constant
have
flux of new
so
artists.
many guest artists, so many friends not to toot my own horn, but I'm social and I've been around a lot, and it's fun to know that like a lot of the guest artists that come in, more than 30% of the time, I'm familiar with them, or I know them, or we've spoken, or had some kind of experience.
Good rapport.
And it's so cool to like, see your friends come through the door, and you had no idea they were coming.
Yeah, right. On that note, Joey, I know we do got to wrap things up. It's we're kind of going past our hour, but this has been an absolute blast. Oh, and real quick, let these guys know where they can find you, like your Instagram and.
Yeah, Tattoos by Joey P. It is everything, all of my social media, my Instagram, my TikTok, my Snapchat. You want to see me do my dances and all that? Tattoos by Joey P is all everything. All my stuff is Tattoos by Joey P. Even if you Google it, everything will come up. So,
thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely,
I appreciate you, buddy.
For sure.
And we'll see you soon.
Hell yeah.
Good shit.